Yo, what's up guys, Alf here, and today I'm going to be doing my second video on the No Ban List Historic event. So after posting my first video on it yesterday, I had a lot of people say they'd be really interested in me posting more decks for this, and like I said, I've been having so much fun brewing in this event, so I'm really excited to post more decks. So in this episode, I'm going to be going over the Simic Nexus of Fate Wilderness Reclamation combo. So this is a deck that got banned in both Standard and Historic a really long time ago. Not everyone's favourite deck because it is a non-deterministic combo that the opponent often wants to sit through, which takes a long time obviously, but I really wanted to return to it because I actually really enjoyed playing this deck back when it was legal, and I was really excited to see what upgrades it got because it got banned so long ago. So if you're not familiar with this deck, it's basically an infinite turns combo deck that is built around Wilderness Reclamation and Nexus of Fate. So Reclamation, a really strong card that untaps all of your lands during your end step. So the reason it pairs really nicely with Nexus of Fate is an instant speed extra turn spell. So what that means if you have Wilderness Reclamation is, once you have Reclamation in play, even if you only have 4 mana, you can go to your end step, and if you set a stop during your end step, it's very important that you set a stop when you're playing with Reclamation, by the way, but if you do set a stop, before the Reclamation trigger resolves, you can float all of your mana, then Reclamation will untap it, and then you can just use that mana to cast the Nexus of Fate. So you float 4, untaps, and then you have access to another 4. You can just cast Nexus of Fate even if you only have 4 mana. So the idea with this deck is we get a Reclamation or multiple Reclamations in play, cast Nexus of Fate, and then the really busted thing about Nexus of Fate is it shuffles itself back into the library. So what that means is that we can just keep digging for it and casting it over and over again. So like I said, the idea is get Reclamation in play, and then the deck is full of cards that help us dig towards more copies of Nexus of Fate. So the idea is we take an extra turn, keep digging because we have so much extra mana off the Reclamation to find more Nexus of Fates, keep taking extra turns over and over again, keep digging for more Nexus of Fates, and then as our deck gets thinner and we go through more of our deck, we'll eventually get to a point where it's really easy to just keep finding the Nexus of Fates. You know, eventually, if we do just keep going, we're going to get to a point where Nexus of Fate is the only card left in the deck, at which point we're deterministic to take extra turns. And then once we're taking infinite turns, you just need a win condition from that point. In this deck, we do have Kaheera as the companion and Hall of Storm Giants, which are nice ways to close the game out. The issue with these two cards is if the opponent has a wide board or very big blockers, it's not actually possible to attack past. So that's why we're also running a single copy of Mirrex. So Mirrex basically guarantees that we can win no matter how big the opponent's board is and no matter how big the opponent's life total is, because we can just keep making tokens with this every single turn. Obviously Reclamation untaps the Mirrex as well, so every cycle we get with a Reclamation we can make a Mirrex token, so we can basically make infinite tokens once we have infinite turns going. And then even if the opponent has infinite life, the might tokens deal poison damage as well, so we can fairly easily win. So Mirrex is really nice because it gives us this unconditional win condition that is a land, right? It's very, very low investment. So it might sound quite complicated if you've never seen this before. It might be quite hard to visualize. So hopefully the gameplay coming up will show you how this works if you've never seen it before. But anyway, like I said, you know, the deck got banned a really, really long time ago, so there's been a ton of new additions that really power this deck up, and I think this is a real contender in the format. I think this particular build that I've made here is very good against combo, very good against control, very good against mid-range, which makes up the big majority of the format. Now, having said that, the deck is pretty weak to aggro. You know, as you look here, all of our interaction is counterspells, so if you're on the draw and the opponent has like a go wide aggro deck, you might struggle in that situation, but, you know, we're playing best of one. When you're playing best of one, you generally want to build your deck in a linear way. You can't build your deck to beat everything. And like I said, the majority of the format, from my experience, has been combo, control, and mid-range, which this deck is really good against. So let's have a look at the specific cards we got here. So starting off here with Wilderness Reclamation, the namesake card of the deck. Obviously very good with Nexus of Fate, but the whole of this deck is basically playing at instant speed, right? Apart from Lorien Revealed, but we're playing at instant speed. We have access to counter spells, so even if we don't have the Nexus of Fate, Reclamation is still really, really solid because on turn 4 we can play the Reclamation and immediately get all 4 mana back to hold open our counter spells or our instant speed card draw spells to help us dig towards the Nexus of Fate. And then, you know, once we get to untap with it, we can then cast our card draw spells before the Reclamation triggers during our main phase, get all of our mana back, and then still hold open counter spells. So Reclamation, obviously a key combo piece with Nexus of Fate, but also works really nicely with, you know, the counter spell control shell. Speaking of which, we've got a lot of counter spells here. So we've got 4 Spell Pierce, which isn't a card I would normally run, but in this format, you know, with Channel being a really powerful deck, you do want to have this so that you can counter Channel even if you lose the die roll, right? If you have Spell Pierce open on turn 1 and the opponent goes for turn 2 Channel, you can just counter it. And like I said, the majority of the format from my experience has been control combo mid-range, and Spell Pierce is you know, going to have good targets in basically all of those matchups. So I think this is really well positioned in the format right now. Then we've also got actual counterspell here, which is, you know, I really wanted to play a counterspell deck, and I think this is a really good shell for it because, you know, we are playing at instant speed a lot. We are basically a combo control deck, and having unconditional counterspell at the 2 mana slot is really, really solid. You know, can counter creatures, so it does give us some game against aggro, particularly if we're on the play. And obviously, just the 2 mana unconditional counterspell is really good. We're also only a 2-color deck, so having double blue on turn 2 is basically, you know, super consistent in this list, so that's not an issue at all. And then we've also got Archmage's Charm, so again, 3 mana unconditional counterspell. Now obviously 3 mana is so much more expensive than counterspell here, but the really nice thing about Archmage's Charm in this deck is it doubles up as a card draw spell to help us dig towards Nexus of Fate, which is so huge, right? The really, you know, the very important thing with this sort of deck is we want to have a high density of ways to dig for Nexus of Fate so that we can, you know, set up our Infinite Turns combo as early as turn 5 once we've got the first Reclamation in play. And Archmage's Charm, you know, like I said, we want to have counterspells as interaction, and having this as a way to dig towards Nexus of Fate is so flexible and exactly what we're after in this sort of deck. And then also the ability to steal 1-drops is relevant, you know, against stuff like Ragavan or just early creatures that you miss counterspells on. So Archmage's Charm, while it is expensive, I do think it's so good in this deck because all 3 modes, but particularly the counterspell and the ability to draw 2, are super relevant to dig towards Nexus of Fate. Then in terms of you know, the dedicated card selection spells to find Nexus of Fate, well, first of all, I want to talk about Growth Spiral. Not really a dedicated card to find Nexus of Fate, but I still really like Growth Spiral in this deck because Reclamation is such an important part of the deck, and being able to ramp into it early is really nice. You know, being able to hold open a counterspell, and then if the opponent doesn't do anything, we can Growth Spiral, get the 4th land in play, and get Reclamation in play on turn 3. You know, this was a common setup in the original Reclamation deck, and I still think it's worth running. I'm only running 3 copies here, firstly because of room considerations, but secondly because we're not running that many actual lands. We're only running 25 lands, which is, you know, not too bad. But the reason that we have got such a low land count is because we're running 4 Lorien Revealed, which I think is such a sick card. I'm going to get to this in a minute. But I don't think we really want to be running the 4 Growth Spiral with only 25 actual lands, because if we have Lorien Revealed in hand and we haven't used it as a land cycler yet, there's a reasonable chance that we'll miss on the extra land ability on Growth Spiral. So I think 3 copies has felt fine. You know, this is probably the flex slot in the deck if you did want to run more interaction. So if you wanted to run some creature interaction, maybe some bounce spells or something like that, this is probably the slot to do it in. But I like Growth Spiral just because it accelerates your game plan, enables you to race slightly easier, and 3 copies has felt like a decent amount to me. Then we've also got Seek New Knowledge, which is a card that I think is really sick in this deck for a number of reasons. So first of all, in the early game, this is really good because, you know, it guarantees finding gas, so the chances of this finding us a Wilderness Reclamation or a Memory Deluge or a counterspell when we need it is really huge, you know, particularly if we have Reclamation in play and we have access to 4 mana, you know, we pay 4 mana for Reclamation and untap 4 lands. If the opponent plays something that we need to counter and we don't have a counterspell, we can then cast Seek New Knowledge to try and dig forwards a counterspell or spell pierce. And, you know, like I said, we're guaranteed to find non-land cards, so the chances of this finding us something good is really huge. On top of that, it also puts a card from our hand on the bottom of the library. So first of all, this is just really good in best of 1 in general anyway. Say for example we're up against a creature deck, this just allows us to put stuff like Spell Pierce back in the deck in matchups where it's dead, so good best of 1 card in general. In the early game, it also enables us to put Nexus of Fate back. Obviously Nexus of Fate is super clunky in the opening hand when you don't have a Reclamation, so having Seek New Knowledge is a way to find better interaction in the early game, or you know, helping us find Reclamation even, and putting back Nexus of Fate is really huge. Like I just said, you know, really good at finding the Reclamation as well. And then once we have Reclamation online, it's really good at digging for Nexus of Fate as well. You know, like I said, the fact that this doesn't find lands means that once we do start digging through our deck, this can help us find Nexus of Fates way more consistently as we do dig through the deck. So this is a card that's really good at basically every point in the game. Then next up, we've got Memory Deluge, which this is the most impactful addition we've had to this deck. You know, Memory Deluge is the perfect card for this deck because, you know, not only is it good at helping us find the combo pieces initially, right? You know, we can pass with 4 mana open if the opponent doesn't counter anything. Deluge does look a decent amount deep to help us find that first Reclamation to get us going. But then once we have the Reclamation online, this is so good at ensuring we don't run out of gas, so good at digging for Nexus of Fate. And then obviously it has the flashback, and once we have 1 or 2 Reclamations in play, we have access to so much mana. So being able to go Deluge, you know, look 4 deep, and then once we untap off Reclamation, we can often immediately flash it back from the graveyard for 7 mana, look 7 cards deep. So once we have Memory Deluge, it's so hard to brick on Nexus of Fate because it's just so good at digging to make sure that we keep finding more Nexus of Fates to keep going. So Deluge, I think, is the biggest addition to this deck. This card is so sick in the archetype. And then we've got Lorien Revealed, which I think is another really solid upgrade to this deck. So like I said, Lorien Revealed is really nice because it just ensures that we keep hitting land drops, which is really important for this deck. We obviously need the 4th land on curve to go for Reclamation, and then even once we have Reclamation in play, you want to keep curving out as well. So Lorien Revealed is really nice at just ensuring that we keep hitting land drops without risking flooding as well. It also gives us access to Mystic Sanctuary in the mana base. You know, once we have 3 islands in play, we can play Sanctuary to get back an instant or sorcery from the graveyard. Now, obviously, Nexus of Fate shuffles itself back in, so we're not going to get that back, but being able to get back stuff like Deluge or Archmage's Charm or Seek New Knowledge, just to guarantee that we're more likely to keep going when we're comboing off, is really nice. So that's a nice upside as well. But the other huge thing about this is the ability to draw 3 at 5 mana is so sick in this deck, you know, because once we have Reclamation in play, we want stuff to do during our main phase before Reclamation untaps our lands. And once we have our 5th land drop, Lorien Revealed is so good at doing that because, you know, say we cast the Reclamation, untap, and then, you know, counter something or cast a Memory Deluge. Then we play our 5th land. We can just use Lorien Revealed as a way to draw 3, which is huge in this deck because, you know, like I said, we want to keep digging towards the Nexus of Fates. And then we get to untap. So Lorien Revealed not only helps us keep finding land drops, but is really good to cast during our main phase before we untap off the Reclamation. And then it also works incredibly well with Seek New Knowledge as well, because the big downside of Seek New Knowledge is it can't find lands. And so the risk with that is if you're in a situation where you're missing land drops, Seek New Knowledge is actually pretty rough because you're just going to find non-lands, which doesn't really help. So Lorien Revealed kind of helps to counteract that because, you know, in a 25 land deck with 4 Lorien Revealed, we're essentially a 29 land deck because Lorien Revealed kind of counts as 4 extra tap lands. So Lorien Revealed acting as a way to keep hitting land drops really mitigates the downside of Seek New Knowledge because we're really likely to have a lot of lands, if that makes sense. And then on the flip side as well, if we are missing land drops, Seek New Knowledge can potentially hit Lorien Revealed, which can then help us find lands. So Lorien Revealed not only mitigates the downside of Seek New Knowledge by helping us find lands, but it also enables Seek New Knowledge to actually help us find lands because it can hit Lorien Revealed as well, if that makes sense. So Lorien Revealed is such a sick, pickup for the archetype and has really helped consistency overall. And then we've also got Kaheera as the companion, which, you know, is another thing that we can do with our mana with Reclamation. If we don't have anything good to do during our main phase, we can just put Kaheera into hand, which is really nice. You know, we can get it down as a blocker earlier. As I mentioned, it also works as a nice win condition. Once, you know, if the opponent doesn't have any creatures in play at all, when we're comboing off, we can just keep comboing off, put Kaheera into hand, and then just cast it and start attacking with it, which is really nice. So obviously free to run, but also just works as a win condition if we need that. And then, you know, mana base, kind of gone over most of this already. 25 lands isn't very high in a Reclamation deck, but like I said, we've got the 4 Lorien Revealed here to make sure that we keep hitting land drops. In terms of the lands themselves, we've obviously got a lot of dual lands. We do need a lot of dual lands here because we do want to have green on turn 2 for Growth Spiral, and we obviously also need double blue on turn 2 for Counterspell, triple blue on turn 3 for Archmage's Charm. So, you know, basically all of our lands outside of Mirrex produce blue. I mean, Mirrex also produces blue the turn it comes down, but not very relevant because it doesn't count as blue during our opponent's turn for counterspells. But overall, the mana base has felt pretty consistent overall. I'm honestly not even sure that you need Hall of Storm Giants if you're relying on Mirrex. The nice thing about Hall of Storm Giants is it just enables you to close games out slightly quicker. If you're entirely reliant on Mirrex, then, you know, you'd have to combo off for a little bit longer, find the Mirrex, and then just produce a bunch of tokens. So I've never really used Hall of Storm Giants defensively. I could see some situations if the opponent manages to force through like a Teferi Time Raveler or something, you might be in trouble and need to use the Hall of Storm Giants. But honestly, if you just want to use Mirrex as a way to win, you could probably cut Hall of Storm Giants for some other lands if you wanted to run something else. But outside of that, nothing too flashy going on in the mana base. Like I said, you know, blue-green dual lands, Otawara as extra interaction, which is nice, and then Sanctuary, just a nice utility off Lorien Revealed. Again, I haven't actually used Sanctuary that often, maybe a couple of times, but it seemed worth it. If you are struggling with this coming in as a tap land, you could also just replace it with an island. But overall, that's the deck. I've been really impressed with this deck. Like I said, I think it's really well positioned because of the amount of counter spells against the controlled matchups, the combo matchups, and the mid-range matchups, which makes up a huge, you know, part of the format. Obviously, you do struggle against aggro, particularly on the draw, but I think you got to pick your lane in best of one, and this has definitely felt like the most consistent version of Nexus of Fate. It's very linear, very good at, ensuring that we don't brick when we're going off with Nexus. So I've been having a ton of fun with this. Next, I've got some gameplay so you guys can see the deck in action. Give me a shout in the comments if you've got any questions about the deck at all. Definitely got more decks to come. Also, definitely let me know in the comments if you've got any cards on the ban list that you'd like me to brew around. I've got a ton of decks more to cover that I'm working on, but if there's any specific cards you want me to see, want to see me build around, definitely let me know in the comments. And I hope you enjoy the gameplay. Big up. Okay, so going first here, and yeah, definitely happy to keep this one right. We've got the Spell Pierce here in case we're up against a deck like Channel. We've got Lore Revealed and Seek New Knowledge and Reclamation, so yeah, very happy with this one. Seek New Knowledge is going to be really good in the early game at digging for stuff. I think we probably do want to cycle Lore Revealed. We really do want to find the 4th land, particularly with Seek New Knowledge, right? Seek New Knowledge wants us to have access to lands, so that if we do flood out, we can just put lands back if necessary. So definitely going to island cycle here. And then I think we probably don't need to get a breeding pool here, I don't think, right? From my experience, you only really need one green source in play, because the chances of you casting like 2 growth spirals in a turn is basically non-existent. So just going to get an island to preserve life total, because we could be against an aggressive deck if we are against Izzet here. Okay, so opponent fires off Consider. Still no idea what the opponent's on. Could be a number of things. Hope it isn't aggro, because we don't really have counterspells to stop their creatures here. So if they do play, wizards or something with Lightning Bolt, then we might be in trouble here, but we'll see. Being on the play is definitely going to help if we are against an aggro deck. Okay, opponent just ships it back, so maybe against a control deck. By the way, just going to fire off the Seek New Knowledge here, see what we hit. Could see putting back a land here. I think I do want to keep at least one Spell Pierce, because we don't really know what we're against. Wow, okay, opponent uses Spell Pierce, so we don't really have a good way to punish that, really. Debating putting Kaheera into hand here. I think I'm going to go for it. If the opponent is playing a control deck, then I don't think there's really anything they're going to tap out for on turn 3. Izzet doesn't really have any broken combos in this format as far as I'm aware, so I don't think we're really going to get punished for tapping out with Spell Pierce here. And putting Kaheera into hand is just way more mana efficient, right? I don't think it's worth holding up Spell Pierce at this stage. If I was up against a green deck and they could potentially go off with Channel, then obviously I'd want to hold open Spell Pierce, but I think I can put Kaheera into hand here. Wow, Sprite Dragon. Okay, so we are against a more aggressive deck than I thought. I'm going to run out Reclamation here, though, while the opponent's tapped out somewhat, which is pretty huge. And drawing Seek New Knowledge is really great here. It allows us to turn some of these lands into something better, hopefully. But yeah, the opponent getting a Sprite Dragon underneath our counterspells is kind of rough. If they have a lot of cheap spells, they can put a fast clock on us. And this particular build isn't great at dealing with creatures once they're in play, right? We have Otawara, but that's about it. Having said that, this build is also built to consistently combo off as early as possible. So a lot of the times when I have faced aggro, I have just been able to race by getting the combo off. I'll stabilize at a low life total often, but the deck is definitely fast enough and consistent enough once you have Reclamation in play to combo off, even if the opponent does have a reasonably fast start in some spots. Interesting. So Lore Revealed is a huge pickup here. We can play that during our main phase. I actually think I'm going to put Kaheera back here because I don't really think it's really doing that much. I want to keep hitting lands here if possible, and Kaheera as just an attacker on the ground is really not going to do much to help us further our game plan at this point in the game. Lore Revealed huge here. And then, there's no way that they have anything to kill Reclamation in Izzet colours, I don't think. So not really any way we can get punished for going for that during the main phase, I don't think. Although they are... Oh, wow, they have the Otawara. Okay, that's the only thing they could have had to punish us there, and they happen to have it. That's kind of rough. I mean, as long as they don't have a ton of cheap spells here, we should be alright, because even if they have a counter spell here, we can back our Reclamation up with Spell Pierce when we recast it. Or potentially counterspell. Now, if the opponent has multiple counterspells, that could be kind of rough, because not only would that buff the Sprite Dragon, but it would also mean that we, can't resolve the Reclamation. But wow, Leah. Okay, interesting. Not sure what the opponent's up to here, but we do get to resolve Reclamation again here, uncontested, which is pretty huge. And I think we can also just go for Nexus of Fate here, and we've got so much gas that I think we should just be good to combo off. So. But yeah, we always want to set a stop during the end steps so that, otherwise Arena will just automatically pass through and you'll be in real trouble. Okay, another Reclamation is really nice here. So I'm going to cast that first. Now the name of the game is just digging towards more Nexus of Fate. So I think I'm going to lead on Seek New Knowledge here just to see if we hit one. Or, I'm debating maybe going for Memory Deluge first. Okay, so... I think I'm going to put back a counterspell here. We already have enough in hand. And then I want to set a stop, cast the Memory Deluge here, and see if we can draw towards another Nexus of Fate if possible. Okay, perfect. We hit 2 Nexus of Fate. So this is why Memory Deluge is so strong in this shell, because it digs pretty far through our deck to find Nexus of Fates. And now it's in the graveyard for 7 mana as well. So once we've cast both of these Nexus of Fates, we can then use the Deluge from the graveyard to dig even further. I think in general, as a rule, it's unless you've got Lorien Revealed in your hand, it's generally best to cast Nexus of Fate first so it goes back in the deck to increase your chances of finding future copies. Now, having said that, I'm going to go for Growth Spiral first here because I want to get more lands in play so that we have access to more mana off the Reclamations. But in general, you know, if you've got other instant speed stuff like Deluge, it's best to cast the Nexus of Fate first to put it back in your deck to increase your chances of finding it off future Deluges. Another quick tip as well is you can press QQ to float all of your mana, which saves a lot of time when you're comboing off. So here we find Archmage's Charm and another Nexus of Fate. So this is the nice thing about Archmage's Charm as well. Obviously a good piece of interaction, but also helps us to keep digging in spots like this where we want to, you know, help us dig towards more Nexus of Fates. So here we can Mystic Sanctuary back the Lorien Revealed. I'm going to main phase the Growth Spiral just to get the Lorien Revealed into hand. Maybe I should have gone for Lorien Revealed first, actually, so then we get the extra land off the Growth Spiral more easily. Yeah, okay, that was a slight missequence from me there. I should have gone for the Lorien Revealed first. But either way, set a stop, go to the end step, float mana with QQ, cast the Nexus of Fate here, and then we can cast Seek New Knowledge. And in this spot, you always want to save Lorien Revealed to draw 3, obviously. We can put a land back here, float mana with QQ again, cast Memory Deluge to dig even further, and then we can flash back the Deluge again. Okay, we hit another Reclamation and another land. I don't think we really want to be going for win conditions yet at this point, right? We just want to make sure that we're not bricking. And then as we keep comboing off here, we're going to find more... okay, opponent just scoops it up. I mean, they didn't really do much, but I might keep this video in just to, you know, highlight how the combo works, because it might be difficult to understand if you've not seen it before. Okay, so we're on the play here, and I don't think we can keep this one. Don't really have any early interaction, and 2 Nexus of Fates in the opening hand isn't ideal. This one looks a lot better, though. I mean, we don't have early counterspells, which could be an issue against the combo decks, but on a Malta 6, I think we have to keep this right. We have Growth Spiral into Reclamation. I think it's between Lorien Revealed and Nexus of Fate. I think with 3 lands, we should be alright here. You know, the ideal setup we want to get here is Growth Spiral into a turn 3 Reclamation, and then take at least 1 turn straight away. Okay, so against the Thoughtseize deck, pretty rough that we mulled to 6, but I don't think our opening 7 would have been any good versus Thoughtseize anyway, so I think this is alright. Okay, interestingly, take the Growth Spiral. I think I'm going to play the Pathway rather than the Sanctum just to conceal information. I don't want to give away what we've drawn for the turn. Okay, opponent plays Croxus, so they're definitely on mid-range. Just going to discard the Nexus of Fate here, I think. Right, we want to keep lands. The key against these discard spell-heavy decks is that... you want to have lands to be able to cast what you draw off the top. You know, the way you beat them is with top decks. So here we could hold open Seek New Knowledge, but with not that many cards in hand and with impactful stuff, I think I'm going to spend the turn putting Kaheera into hand. And then now we can Seek New Knowledge, put Kaheera back in the deck, and hopefully keep the 2 other cards if they're more impactful. So opponent dashes in the Ragavan, but I don't think we're really too concerned about that unless, you know, there's nothing in our deck that they can really hit that's that great for them. Okay, Counterspell's a really nice draw here. Now we get Reclamation in play, and now we have access to all the mana in the world, so we've just got to hope the top deck well. We still have the Seek New Knowledge and the Counterspell in hand, so I don't mind our spot here. And I think, yeah, if they do dash in the Ragavan, we could obviously Counterspell that, but, you know, again, I don't really think I care that much about Ragavan, because there's nothing in our deck they can hit that's that great for them to cast, really. You know, they obviously get the treasure, but... I'd much rather save Counterspell for a higher impact card, maybe a bigger creature or a ring or something like that. But yeah, I honestly don't think we really care that much about Ragavan. Now, them having Ragavan on turn 1 can be a bit awkward, but we also have Archmage's Charm that can steal it, so even then it's not that bad. Wow, they just go for the ring. Okay, so I'm very happy that we saved the Counterspell here. Maybe they thought that we would have used Counterspell on the Ragavan. Now we can Seek New Knowledge and put the Kaheera back, so very glad that we put that into hand. Okay, sick. That's really good. So now we have Nexus of Fate and Lorien Revealed. So we could obviously use Lorien Revealed to get a land here, but I really want to wait until we can find the 5th land, because if we can use Lorien Revealed during the main phase to draw 3 and then still get the untap off Reclamation, that's so solid. So I was hoping to hit another land there. I think I'm just going to main phase this Growth Spiral and try and find another land. Okay, so this is a more interesting point here. We could have used Lorien Revealed to try and get more lands to then enable Deluge, but I really want to use Lorien Revealed as a draw 3 if possible, and I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to use Deluge to find a land here. So here, I think I'm going to Deluge now. There's nothing I'm really too concerned about. Obviously, they could go land into one ring, but even then, I don't think that's too bad, honestly. So not 100% sure what I'm going to discard here. It's between Counterspell and Nexus of Fate. Now we've tapped out, I'm not even sure I care about Counterspell. You know, I think the scariest thing from their side is probably the ring. But, you know, we're pretty quickly approaching being able to combo off. So I don't even know if we care about the ring at this point, honestly. Okay, so we found the land, which is really solid. I'm going to go for the Nexus of Fate first, just because, you know, it then unlocks more mana for next turn. Puts the Nexus of Fate back in the deck, so we're more likely to draw it. Okay, sweet. So we drew a land. Going to lead on the Lorien Revealed here to draw 3. Okay, sweet. So we hit a Counterspell and a Reclamation. So unfortunately, we can't keep comboing off this turn. But now we have Counterspell, and we got Deluge in the graveyard. We got another Reclamation and a Lorien Revealed. So I feel pretty good about this spot, you know. I think this matchup, from my experience, has been pretty good so far. I mean, obviously, if they go like Dark Ritual into a ring early on, that's kind of scary. But outside of that, you know, as long as we can play through the counterspells and draw reasonably well off the top, which, you know, we're a deck with 4 Deluge, 4 Lorien Revealed. I guess actually another thing that is kind of scary from their point of view is Shieldred and Bowmasters are kind of... Actually, yeah, Shieldred's a big problem, because if they resolve that, we need Otawara to be able to combo off. Because if we're taking infinite turns, we'll just get burnt out by the Shieldred, and we do have a lot of cards that we want to be able to cast that do draw us multiple cards as well, you know, like Lorien Revealed and Archmage's Charms. So I think, you know, we do definitely want to have counterspells to stop Bowmasters and Shieldred, otherwise that could potentially be an issue. So here, gonna put Kaheera into play and just go for Deluge, hopefully find another Nexus of Fate. Unfortunately, we don't find one, but we do find Seeking Knowledge, which can hopefully find us another counterspell here. So like I said, I do think we want to have counterspells for Shieldred and Bowmasters. Bowmasters not as much of an issue because Deluge doesn't draw. You know, we can potentially combo off without triggering the Bowmasters. Shieldred is definitely much more of an issue, but, you know, we do have 4 counterspell, 4 Archmage's Charms, so Shieldred shouldn't be too much of an issue here. So Crucius, I don't know if we really care about. I mean, it can find them Bowmasters, which is a bit of a concern, but... And, I mean, we don't really need to worry about anything else they could do this turn. So I think I'm going to fire off Seeking Knowledge now just to see what I hit. Honestly, you know, if I hit Counterspell, I might Counterspell it. If I hit Archmage's Charm, I probably won't, because I'd rather use the Archmage's Charm to dig for Nexus of Fate next turn. So we'll use Seeking Knowledge again. And we do find the Archmage's Charm, but like I said, you know, I think I'm going to save that to draw. The only thing I'm really worried about here is that they discard Ragavan, name Ambitious, and find Bowmasters. But, you know, as I said, we can play through Bowmasters way easier than a Shieldred. Okay, and it doesn't look like they have anything. Arena's giving away priority, so get to use Lorien Revealed again, draw 3 here, hopefully hit something. Okay, perfect. That's really good. So I think I'm going to lead on Seek New Knowledge here just to see what we hit. Okay, so we hit a Deluge, which is really solid. So going to put an untapped land in play just to give us a little bit more mana to work with this turn. Tap the island and go for Deluge, see what we hit. Okay, perfect. Got Nexus of Fate and Mirrex as well, so we've got our win con, which is nice. Going to QQ to inflate all of our mana, fire off a Nexus of Fate again here. And then just going to draw 2 off the Archmage's Charm. Okay, sick. We hit another Deluge, so I think we should be good here, right? We've got 2 Reclamations, 2 Deluges. Don't think we're going to put Mirrex into play yet. I think, you know, we might as well wait until we're more deterministic and then start using the Mirrex to produce tokens to close the game out. So we're going to go QQ to inflate the mana, fire off the first Nexus of Fate, QQ again here, fire off the second Nexus of Fate, and then we've also got Memory Deluge to cast here as well. Got 2 extra turns going. Yeah, opponent just scoops it up. So yeah, got there nice. Okay, so we're going second here, and yeah, I think this hand's pretty good, right? I mean, we obviously don't have the Spell Pierce, which is the only weakness of it, so if we happen to queue into channel and they have the turn 2 win, then obviously that's kind of rough, but we are going to have priority off the Hall of Storm Giants because of Laurium Revealed, so, you know, there's a chance they might think we have Spell Pierce and not go for it. Plus, there's also a decent chance that we're either not against channel, or even if we are, they might have to use a tutor to set it up as well, so yeah, definitely on balance, I'm going to keep this one for sure. You know, if we're not against channel, this hand's great outside of that anyway. Only slightly annoying thing is that we've only got 3 lands here with Seek New Knowledge, but, you know, we are essentially a 29 land deck with all the Laurium Revealed, so I'm pretty confident that we should hit the 4th land for this Memory Deluge here. And we can also put back this Nexus of Fate with the Seek New Knowledge as well, so... Okay, opponent leads on Brainstorm, off a blue-black pathway as well, so... Not 100% sure what they're on, could be Control, could still be some, you know, potentially a combo deck here, we'll have to see. Surprised that they did Brainstorm during the main phase, because surely it's best for them to wait and get more information. I guess maybe they're playing around Spell Pierce, maybe, if that Brainstorm is really important. But yeah, we'll see what else they got here. They do have Demonic Cheater, so I assume they're on a combo deck here, so... Scary to play against these sort of combo decks when we don't know what they're doing, because if they have a bunch of rituals like Dark Ritual, if they're playing like a Storm deck with Tendrils of Agony, then knowing when to use the counterspell is kind of difficult, right? I'm never really happy counterspelling the first Dark Ritual, really, because you never really know how much Storm they've got, or even if they're playing Storm in the first place. You know, it's much better off if they're trying to Dark Ritual into a payoff to wait until they cast that payoff card, but we'll have to see. So Demonic Tutor, again, we could potentially counter this, but they've already used one, so they already have one of their combo pieces in hand. I don't think countering this is going to achieve that much. I'd much rather save my counterspells for their payoffs, and we do have stuff to do with our mana. You know, if we didn't have the Seek New Knowledge, then I think I would definitely be more inclined to counter that, just to use our mana this turn, but we still have the Seek New Knowledge to use here. We can put back this Nexus of Fate, which is kind of clunky, since we don't have the Reclamation, you know. So... Going to put the pathway in play first. One important thing to note as well is that if you're using Growth Spiral to put a pathway into play, you don't get to pick the side. It will automatically put it into play on the green side, which is really awkward when we need double blue for Counterspell and triple blue for Archmage's Charm. So if you've got Growth Spiral in your hand and you're planning to use it, you should always play the pathway first, because you know otherwise you'll get locked into playing it on green. Okay, opponent is on Dark Rituals, so... I think I'm just going to let that go and hope to counter their payoff and hope that they don't just storm off into like a Mind's Desire or something. Bonus is Citadel. I mean, definitely you can snap off a counterspell at that. And then if they have another counterspell themselves, we thankfully have a Spell Pierce to fight on the stack as well. So, yeah, they do have counterspell. So maybe they tutored once for Citadel, once for counterspell. Okay, sweet. That's really good. Okay. Opponent just scoops that up. So yeah, this is why we're so good against the combo decks. Okay, so we're on the play here, and yeah, this hand looks pretty good to me. Right, we've got Spell Pierce's early interaction, Seek New Knowledge to help filter our hand, and we've already got Reclamation and Nexus of Fate, so this looks pretty good to me. Now, there is an argument to maybe leading on the Dreamroot Cascade on turn 1 so that we can play Grey Spiral on turn 2, but I want to hold open Spell Pierce in case the opponent leads on Thoughtseize or something like that. Opponent does have Delighted Halfling though, which is kind of rough, because we typically rely on counterspells to interact. So if the opponent's deck is just full of legends, we're going to struggle to interact. So I think... Yeah, okay, so they're on Kinnan. So halving into Kinnan makes me think they might be on Paradox Engine, maybe? Yeah, either way, we'll Seek New Knowledge, and... Probably going to put back the Spell Pierce, maybe? Hold on, let me think about this. Maybe Nexus of Fate as well, because we're not that close to going off with infinite turns yet. Although we do have the Reclamation. I think I'm going to put back the Spell Pierce here, because the only non-creature spells that I'm interested in countering if the opponent is on Paradox Engine is Engine, Ring, and Karn, all of which can't be Or sorry, all of which stop me countering with the halfling. Yeah, so opponent does have the ring, which is not ideal here. If they can set that up alongside Paradox Engine, especially with these mana dorks in play, they could potentially win on the spot. So I think we're just hoping to race here. Or potentially hit something, you know, that counterspell can actually stop. Definitely going to cycle the Lorien Revealed here because we really want that, the 4th land. Going to get an island here because, you know, I think you only really need 1 green land in play at any time. Okay, definitely going to put back the Spell Pierce here. And then we can go for the Wilderness Rec. And then just hope the opponent doesn't have too crazy a turn here. Because if we can get off Memory Deluge here and find a land and something good, and the opponent doesn't win this turn, I think we've actually got a reasonable chance of potentially comboing off next turn. Right, we've got the 2 Nexus of Fates, we've got Lorien Revealed, Demonic Shooter Heart. So I feel like we probably should counter this. It does mean that we don't, you know, get to use Deluge this turn, but, you know, considering our counterspells aren't going to be able to stop any of their most high impact cards, I feel like we probably do just have to go for it. Okay, so they go for Khan. If they are on Paradox Engine, I imagine they just grab the engine here, and they're probably good to win next turn. So I've just got to think here whether I want to cycle the Lorien Revealed, whether that gives me the most chance of comboing off here or not. So opponent activates the 1 ring. This is a tough choice, because we do want more land, especially with this Deluge here. I think we have to go for it, right? Because if we miss a land drop off the top, that's kind of a disaster. So just going to grab an island here, right? Don't think we really want Mystic Sanctuary for anything. Oh, we can't even get it online now anyway. But either way, we're definitely going to lead on these Nexus of Fates first. Get them in the deck so they're more easy to dig for. And also just gives us some more draw steps to try and find, you know, more gas. Then we can Growth Spiral. Interesting. I'm kind of tempted to keep this Lorien Revealed to draw with. Although with Deluge, you know, we do tend to want a lot of mana because we can flash it back as well. So I think I'm going to use the island cycling here. And just debating whether I want to go for island or breeding pool here. I think I'm just going to go for island. Oh, no, wait. Wow, okay, that was a misclick. My bad. So I meant to go for island there. I really hope that doesn't come back to bite me. Yeah, because that's going to be entering as a tap land. And now we've also lost access to the Sanctuary, which I don't think is a big deal, but I'm hoping, you know, it being a tap land isn't going to affect too much here. Because we can still go for the Deluge even with the tap land, so hopefully that shouldn't end up mattering. But now we can just go for the Deluge. Okay, we hit another Nexus of Fate and a Wilderness Rec, so that's perfect, because now we have more than enough mana to flash back this, the Memory Deluge. So going to set a stop, cast the Reclamation, go to the end step, float mana with QQ, go for the Nexus of Fate, float mana again here, and then just go for the Deluge, see what we hit. Wow, double Nexus of Fate. Okay, sick. Very happy to see that. So, going to set a stop again, go for the main phase Nexus of Fate, and then we are running a little light on card draw, but, you know, Archmage's Charm is obviously going to be really nice here at helping us dig, and we have 2 draw steps off the extra turns as well. So we get to draw 2 off the Archmage's Charm here, hopefully find something good, you know, mainly looking for stuff like Deluge, Lorien Revealed, Seek New Knowledge, and we hit another Deluge, which is huge. Okay, we find another Deluge, and I think with the Dreamroot Cascade we can afford to go for a Horde of Storm Giants here. Maybe that's a bit greedy. We should probably maybe wait until we're a bit more deterministic before doing that. By the way, we have a ton of mana here. I think I'm going to go for the Deluge here because we're more likely to find more Nexus of Fates by looking a little deeper. Okay, we find 2 Nexus of Fates. That's really good. So now we have 2 turns on the stack with another Nexus of Fate in hand. Yeah, opponent just scoops it up. So yeah, we got there. Nice. Okay, so we're going second here. And I think this is borderline, but I'm going to risk this one. This could be close to a mull maybe, especially on the draw, but we do have the turn 2 counterspell. If we can hit 4 mana, then I think with this hand there's a pretty reasonable chance that we can just go off on turn 5. So, going to risk it and see how it plays out. Turn 1 Duress on a black-green pathway, so that makes me think it's channel, but the fact they've had to play their pathway on black means that they can't go off on turn 2, which is pretty huge, right? Because they obviously need double green for channel. Unless they had... Oh no, even with like chromatic sphere or star, they'd need to wait an extra turn. Although now they're demonic tutor, so... You know, they're pretty well set up. They've also taken our counterspells, so... Oh wow, I was literally about to say, unless we can draw another counterspell here, we're probably going to lose next turn, but drew one off the top. I mean, we are running 6. I mean, I guess Archmage's Charm wouldn't have done it in this spot, but... Wow, they play a tapped Overgrown Tomb. Huh. Interesting. I mean, I assume they're on channel. Maybe they're not. Or maybe they just don't want to go for it. Yeah, maybe... okay. If they're going for it now, maybe they have Veil of Summer. And they wanted to go for channel plus Veil backup. Yeah, okay. Man, Veil of Summer is such a messed up card. I almost forgot that it drew a card as well. Yeah, Veil of Summer is just ridiculous. So we'll see what they've got here as their payoff. You know, they've demonic tutored twice, so I assume they got something here. Okay, Emrakul the Promised End. I mean, we're not guaranteed to lose here, right? We do have Reclamation into Nexus of Fate. We could still maybe combo off before they kill us with the Emrakul, right? We're still at 20. They need 2 attacks. And there's not... I was going to say, there's not really much they can do here. I mean, I feel like... I guess they've shocked in the breeding pool to try and deal us some damage, but that feels like it was a big mistake, right? Because... Putting a land in play helps us combo off. They probably should have just passed without doing anything. So here with the counterspell in hand, I'm going to go for the Deluge now, see what we hit. Okay, we hit a Reclamation and a Seek New Knowledge, so maybe we go for a land here. But, I mean, I think we can still win here, right? Unless they have some other threat. We just take 13 from the Emrakul attack, and then I think we can just combo off the following turn, right? I mean, things would have obviously been a bit more difficult if the opponent hadn't shocked in the breeding pool, but if we missed the land drop for this turn, I don't think it would have mattered anyway. Okay, we did find Hall of Storm Giants, but... So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we've got a good chance of comboing off here, even though the opponent did manage to pull off Channel Emrakul. Gonna float the mana first just in case they have some way to interact. So we can go Nexus of Fate here, and then we can go for Memory Deluge into Seek New Knowledge. So we've got a good chance of not fizzling here, especially with the 2 Reclamations in play. So I'm going to take Lorien Revealed and the Memory Deluge. Going to fire off another Seek New Knowledge, see what we hit. Okay, perfect. So we hit Nexus of Fate. Probably going to put back the Lorien Revealed here, I think. And then interesting whether we want to go for Lorien Revealed first. I think we probably do, because everything else is instant speed, right? And now I'm pretty... Yeah, I think at this point it's going to be so difficult to brick. And considering how we've... You know, how much digging we've drawn, I still think we probably would have won this even if the opponent hadn't shocked in the breeding pool, which is pretty sick. So now we can float mana, go for Memory Deluge here, see what we hit. Okay, perfect. 2 more Nexus of Fate, still got a Deluge in the graveyard, still got a Memory Deluge in hand as well, plus the Lorien Revealed. Okay, there's another Wilderness Rec, so yeah, I feel pretty good about this spot, which is kind of crazy. We're going to beat Channel into Emrakul with Veil backup. But yeah, we get to go for Nexus of Fate here. Float mana again. Go for another Nexus of Fate. Then we can go for Deluges here as well. Gonna go for the one in hand first. Don't think it really makes a difference. Okay, we hit another Nexus of Fate and another Deluge. So yeah, I'd be very, very surprised if we bricked here. I think it's almost impossible. We've got 3 turns on the stack. We have a ton of Deluges. We can draw 2 off the Archmage's Charm. Okay, fine. Another Nexus of Fate. So yeah, set stop during the end phase. Always make sure to do that or it will just skip through, which is kind of a disaster. I mean, I don't think it'd matter here because we've got 2 turns on the stack. But yeah, opponent scoops up. That was a nice one. Okay, so we're on the play here, and yep, this looks reasonable. I mean, the annoying thing about this hand is that we have 2 Seek New Knowledges and only 2 lands, which is kind of rough because, wow, opponent's mulling into Oblivion, so probably against something like Channel or 2 Alts Trickery here, if I had to guess. So very happy to have this Spell Pierce in hand. But yeah, I think with only 2 lands in hand, we have to go for the Dreamroot Cascade. Okay, opponent's 100% on 2 Alts Trickery here. because Arena gave away priority after them playing a tap land, plus they're playing red lands as well, and they've mulliganed into Oblivion, so definitely against Trickery, and we also have, a ton of counterspells here, so I think we should be good. I mean, if we can keep hitting lands, though, that's the important thing. Okay, sick, we did. So now if they don't have anything, we can just use Archmage's Charm to draw, hopefully find more lands, and then, we've got Counterspell and Spell Pierce, so these are the sorts of decks where we just farm most of the time. Okay, we found another land, which is obviously great. Okay, we do have the Mirrex, so I think I'm going to play that just so we have the option of going for Memory Deluge here. And we still have Counterspell plus Spell Pierce available. So interesting, I mean, I guess the opponent's just trying to wait to pull the trigger. I assume they probably have both the combo pieces. But yeah, obviously, playing into open blue mana with Tibot's Trickery is going to be rough. So unfortunately, we do have to discard to hand size here, but I think it's fine, right? We can just pitch one of these Nexus of Fates while we don't have the Reclamation. Okay, they're going for it, so maybe they didn't have the pieces and they were just waiting to draw one of them. By the way, easy Spell Pierce here while they don't have the fourth land. I mean, they do they do get the Tormod's Crypt, which can exile the Memory Deluge, which could potentially leave us out of gas here, but I'd be super surprised if that ended up actually mattering here. So we can go for Growth Spiral, get this Horde of Storm Giants in play. Kind of annoying that Growth Spiral forces the Simic pathway in on the green side, so definitely going to wait during our turn to play the pathway on the blue side. Okay, they do crack the Tormod's Crypt, so that does get rid of the Memory Deluge, but, I don't think that'll end up mattering, really. So here, I think it's just really important that we keep holding counterspells open. Going to keep the Lorum Revealed just because if we can find a Reclamation, having Lorum Revealed as a way to draw is very important, because, outside of this Deluge, which we just drew, we didn't really have that many ways to... what am I saying? That many ways to dig. So they do find another Trickery, but obviously we've got counterspells here. So yeah, opponent just scoops it up. These are the sorts of matchups where we just win fairly easily most of the time. Okay, so we're on the play here, and yep, I think we can keep this one right. We got counterspell up on turn 2, plus Seek New Knowledge and Memory Deluge. So as long as we can hit the fourth land, this hand's pretty decent. And being on the play means that Counterspell can stop channel as well, which is always nice. A little bit awkward here with the pathways and Growth Spiral, because we definitely want to have Counterspell mana open on turn 2, but, I think it's fine. And plus, if we do draw a blue-green dual land, we can potentially ramp into a turn 3 Memory Deluge, which would be sick. Llanowar was interesting. So we'll just ship it back here, see what the opponent does. So they are maybe natural order elves, potentially. They're not using the Llanowar elves. Okay, they just ship it back. We'll fire off the Seek New Knowledge here. I think we'll put back the Growth Spiral. Growth Spiral is only really great on turn 2. Okay, we do draw another land, which is nice. Now we have Counterspell plus Lorum Revealed, and then we can go Wilderness Rec into Deluge next turn, which is pretty sick. Hopefully that can set us up towards starting to combo off. Rootbound Crag. So, they are playing Channel. Do they have... okay, I was worried they had Veil of Summer as well there. Interesting. So they're running Elves, and they're running Red as well. So... we'll have to see what build they're on. Because most of the Channel decks I've seen so far are black for counterspells and Eldrazi. I wonder what the red's for. But yeah, either way, going to use Lorum Revealed here. Probably could have just got an island there, but I don't think I'm really concerned about my life total in this matchup. And getting an extra green land could be useful. Maybe not, though. I mean, from my experience, I don't think I've ever needed more than one green land in play until the late game, so... But yeah, we'll see what the opponent's up to here. We're still a little ways away from comboing, but we've got counterspell. Actually, having said that, you know, we've got the 5th land, we've got Deluge, so as long as we can hit the first Nexus of Fate relatively soon, I think we are actually pretty close to comboing here. But, you know, the opponent is ramping, so maybe they're running, like, Channel in a more fair deck, potentially, if they're running Mana Dorks as well, to maybe hardcast their more expensive stuff. Oh, okay, interesting. So Light Up the Night. So I assume they're running like essentially Channel Fireball combo, which is cool. So instead of the Eldrazi, they're trying to use Channel to just dome the opponent for a ton of damage. And I guess that also explains the Mana Dorks, right? Because if you go like an Elf on turn 1, you can go Channel, use the Elf to pay for 1 mana, and then deal 20, potentially. Is that how it works? Either way, it's it's interesting to see a different build of Channel anyway. So here, definitely going to main phase the Deluge to make use of the mana here, and then I think I'm going to just play the Cascade to float mana for this Growth Spiral, and then we've still got mana up for Spell Pierce. We've still got mana up for Counterspell as well. So I feel pretty good about this spot, right? If the opponent's deck is just Channel, Fireballs, and loads of Mana Dorks, then I don't think we're really under any threat. And we're definitely going to win the long game, especially with these counterspells in hand. So opponent gets in for 1. Just going to fire off the Deluge here. Okay, sweet. We found Nexus of Fate, so I feel like we're in a pretty good position to combo off here. So we're going to set a stop during the end step. Going to go for Lorien Revealed first. You know, typically that's the best thing to do during your main phase because we can't cast it instant speed, obviously. Then we can play the Cascade, float some mana here, fire off this first Nexus of Fate, and then we can also seek New Knowledge here as well. Put back, you know, maybe a land or a Spell Pierce here. Probably should put back the Spell Pierce. I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to combo off from this spot. I mean, even if we don't, we've still got a bunch of counterspells here anyway, so... But yeah, either way, we get to draw 3, and then probably just going to go for Seek New Knowledge first, just to see if we do hit a Nexus of Fate. 2 Spell Pierces, not exactly what we want to see here. So we do brick, but you know we have so many counterspells here that I'd be very shocked if we won. If we ended up losing from this point. So I think we can just discard a land and a Spell Pierce, and then we have a bunch of counter spells to stop the opponent if they do find another channel, and then I feel pretty confident, especially with this extra Wilderness rack, that we can just combo off next turn. It's not a huge deal. Burn from Within, okay, so yeah, it looks like they're just a deck full of like fireball effects, so we can just Spell Pierce that, and then still got enough mana to flashback the Deluge here. Okay, perfect. Found another Nexus of Fate and a Deluge, so yeah, I'm pretty confident we just, you know, we have enough ways to dig here that we should just be good to win. So we go Wilderness Rec, float some mana, go for the Nexus of Fate, then go for the second Nexus of Fate, and then we can start using these Deluges to dig. Yeah, opponent just keeps it up. So yeah, we got there, nice.